I never thought I'd pull a gun on my own mother, but there I was, finger trembling on the trigger, the cold steel of my grandfather's old revolver pressing into my palm like a promise I couldn't take back. The kitchen smelled of burnt coffee and regret, the kind that clings to the walls of every shitty trailer in this godforsaken Ohio town. "Give it back," I whispered, my voice cracking like the frost on the window pane outside. "Every goddamn cent you stole from me while I was too broken to fight." My name is Alexis Harper, and for as long as I can remember, pain has been my constant companion. Not the sharp, fleeting kind that makes you curse under your breath and move on, but a deep, gnawing ache that started in my left leg when I was 12 and never really let go. It was a car accident. Ironic, since my folks were the ones behind the wheel, swerving to miss a deer on some back road outside Cleveland. Dad was drunk, as usual, nursing a flask of cheap whiskey to chase away the ghosts of his mill job layoffs. Mom was yelling at him, her voice slicing through the night like a switchblade, about bills and broken dreams and how he'd ruined everything. I was in the back seat, headphones on, lost in some angsty pop playlist, when the world flipped sideways. The doctors called it a compound fracture, shattered femur that healed wrong because we couldn't afford the fancy surgery. Medicaid covered the basics, but physical therapy? That was a luxury for families who didn't live paycheck to phantom paycheck. So I walked with a limp, a subtle hitch that turned heads in high school hallways and made job interviews a joke. By 18, I was on disability, Social Security checks rolling in every month like clockwork, about $1,200 that was supposed to keep me afloat while I figured out life with a bum leg and a resume full of gaps. But my parents? They saw it as their golden ticket. "It's family money, Lexi," Mom would say, her smile all saccharine southern drawl, even though we'd never set foot south of the Mason-Dixon. Dad would nod along, his eyes darting like he was casing a joint, which, come to think of it, he probably was in his younger days. They convinced me to sign over power of attorney when I turned 21, right after the accident statute of limitations ran out, and they spun some sob story about how the state would garnish it for their debts. Debts they racked up on lottery tickets and bar tabs, not on my rehab or my dreams of community college. For 7 years, I lived in the basement of our sagging ranch house on Elm Street, the kind of place where the foundation cracks let in the damp and the neighbors pretend not to hear the fights. I worked odd jobs, data entry from home, freelance editing for pennies, while they deposited my checks straight into their account. "We're just holding it for you, sweetie," Mom cooed, handing me a 20 for groceries like I was a kid begging for allowance. I'd nod, because what choice did I have? The leg throbbed worse in the cold Ohio winters, and fighting them meant risking the roof over my head. Besides, they were my blood. Betrayal wasn't a word I let myself think back then. It started small. I'd ask for money to fix my ancient laptop, and Dad would grumble about tight times while slipping out to the track. Mom bought herself a new coat once, fur-trimmed and flashy, the kind that screamed upward mobility in a town where most folks were sliding down. I swallowed it, told myself it was temporary. But then the lies piled up like snowdrifts. I'd overhear them in the kitchen at night, whispers about the kid's stash funding a down payment on a used SUV or paying off Dad's poker debts to some shady crew from the east side. Once, I found a bank statement crumpled in the trash, my name on it, but withdrawals signed in Mom's looping cursive. The real gut punch came on my 20th birthday. Nothing fancy, just a store-bought cake from the Kroger down the block and a card with a generic "Love, Mom and Dad" scrawled inside. I was upstairs for once, helping Mom sort through Grandpa's old boxes. He'd passed 6 months back, leaving behind a lifetime of hoarded junk from his days as a steelworker. Grandpa Joe, the only one who ever really saw me, not the limp or the label of charity case. He'd sneak me 20s when the folks weren't looking, tell stories of union strikes and how a man's worth wasn't in his wallet but his backbone. That's when I found it, a shoebox tucked under his workbench, labeled for Alexis. "Don't let him break you." Inside, not cash, but letters. Yellowed envelopes from the Social Security office, copies of my checks they'd intercepted, even a notarized affidavit from a lawyer friend of Grandpa's detailing how they'd forged my signature on loan docs to siphon funds for their investments. A string of failed get-rich schemes, From pyramid sales to that go-doffel timeshare in Florida. Grandpa had known. For years, he'd been quietly documenting, waiting for me to be ready. The last letter, dated a week before he died. Kiddo, revenge isn't about the money. It's about taking back your spine. I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. Love always, Gramps. I sat there on the cold concrete floor, tears blurring the ink, the basement light flickering like it was in on the conspiracy. Upstairs, Mom was humming some old country tune, oblivious. Dad was probably at the VFW, swapping war stories he never fought in. That night, I didn't sleep. I applauded. Not with fists or fury. I'm no action hero, hobbling on this leg, but with the cold precision of someone who's had everything stripped bare. Grandpa's box became my war chest. I started squirreling away what little I could from my side gigs, opened a secret account in my name only. And I waited. The first move was subtle. I stopped asking for money. Let them think I was grateful, the dutiful daughter. Mom noticed quick, her eyes narrowing over breakfast cereal that was mostly air. Everything okay, Lexi? You seem distant. I smiled, that fake one I'd perfected in therapy sessions I couldn't afford anymore. Just focusing on me, Ma. Got some writing gigs lining up. It was half true. I'd started a blog, anonymous rants about family leeches disguised as fiction. Readers ate it up, comments like, "This hits too close to home" from folks in similar hells. Dad was easier to rattle. He came home one night reeking of bourbon, slapping a wad of cash on the table like a king. "Big win at the tables, babe," he crowed to Mom. I was in the living room, pretending to read. "That's great, Dad. Hey, can I borrow 50? My leg brace snapped. His face soured, the wad vanishing into his pocket. "Tough times, kid. Ask your mother." I limped upstairs without a word, but inside, the hook was set. Weeks turned to months. I dug deeper into Grandpa's files, cross-referencing with online forums for fraud victims. Turns out, my folks weren't unique. Thousands of families pulling this shit under the guise of helping. I filed anonymous tips with Adult Protective Services, nothing that stuck, but enough to make them paranoid. Mom started double-checking locks. Dad eyed me like I was the enemy. Good. Let the betrayal fester from the inside. Then came the hook that snagged them proper. A letter from the SSA, forwarded to my secret P.O. box. An audit. Someone, me actually, using a burner email, had flagged discrepancies. They were calling me in for review, and if I played it right, it could unravel their whole house of cards. But I didn't want jail for them, not yet. I wanted them to feel the slow bleed, the way I'd felt it for years. The secret Grandpa hinted at? It wasn't just the money. Buried in those files was proof they'd covered up the accident. Falsified reports to dodge manslaughter charges. Let me take the hit as the unreliable witness because of my condition. I'd lied for them back then. Too scared and small to speak up. Now, that girl was gone. I confronted them on a muggy July evening, the kind where the air sticks to your skin like guilt. We were in the kitchen, fluorescent buzz overhead casting shadows that danced like accusations. "I know about the checks," I said, voice steady as I slid a printout across the Formica table, Grandpa's affidavit, highlighted. Mom's coffee mug hit the floor, shattering like our illusions. Dad's face went the color of ash. "Lexi, honey, it's not what you think," she started, but I cut her off. "It's exactly what I think. 7 years, Ma. 7 years of my life you turned into your piggy bank." Dad lunged for the paper, but his hands shook too bad to grab it. "We did it for you. The house, the food." "Bullshit," I spat, the word tasting like freedom. "You did it for you. And the accident? You let me carry that lie so you could keep your licenses, your jobs." I was 12, Dad. 12. The room spun, my legs screaming from standing too long, but I didn't sit. Not this time. They begged, of course. Tears from Mom, bluster from Dad. Promises to pay back, to change. I let them stew, locked myself in the basement with Grandpa's revolver, cleaned and loaded, a relic from his war days. Not to use, not really. But holding it? That was power. The kind they'd stolen from me. Little did I know, Grandpa had one last bomb to drop. The reading of his will was set for the next week, and the lawyer's call came like thunder. "Miss Harper, your grandfather left instructions."
It's
Unconventional. Unconventional didn't cover it. But that was for later. For now, I had my parents on their knees, and the revenge was just warming up. The days after the kitchen showdown blurred into a tense standoff, the kind you see in those Lifetime movies where everyone's smiling through gritted teeth. Mom took to baking. Apple pies that sat uneaten on the counter, their sweetness a cloying apology. Dad disappeared for hours, coming back with grease under his nails from odd jobs at the auto shop, muttering about making it right. I played along, limping through the house like a ghost, my blog posts turning sharper, veiled barbs about parental vampires that had my follower count spiking. Comments poured in. Is this real? God, I feel seen. One woman from Texas DM'd me her own story, parents draining her SSI for meth habits. It fueled me, this quiet army of the screwed over. But inside, I was unraveling. Nights, I'd wake sweating, the phantom screech of tires from the accident echoing in my skull. I'd hobble to the basement, clutch Grandpa's gun, and whisper the truths I'd buried. How Dad had braked too late on purpose, rage-blinded after Mom's latest affair confession. How they'd coached me to lie to the cops. It was the dear, baby, nothing else, while I bled on the gurney. The disability wasn't just the leg, it was the PTSD they gifted wrapped, the anxiety that kept me chained to this house. I'd taken the fall for their sins, and now, payback's ledger was open. The will reading was at Elder & Sons, a dusty law office downtown that smelled of mothballs and old money. Rain hammered the windows as we filed in, me, Mom, Dad, and Aunt Carla, Grandpa's estranged sister who'd flown in from Phoenix, her Botox smile not quite hiding the greed in her eyes. Mr. Hargrove, the lawyer, was a wiry man in bifocals, shuffling papers like a blackjack dealer. "Joseph Harper's estate is modest," he began, voice droning like a bad sermon. "The house on Oak to Carla, tools to the Union Hall, savings divided equally." Mom shifted beside me, her hand brushing mine in fake solidarity. Dad stared at the floor, jaw clenched. I tuned it out, mind on escape routes, maybe a cheap apartment in Columbus, start fresh with whatever scraps I could claw back. Then Hargrove cleared his throat. "But for Alexis, there's a codicil, to be read privately after." Privately? The word hung like smoke. Mom's grip tightened. "What the hell does that mean?" Dad hissed under his breath. Aunt Carla arched a perfectly plucked brow, but said nothing. Hargrove dismissed us, pulling me into a side room lined with leather-bound tomes. He locked the door, handed me a sealed envelope, Grandpa's scrawl across the front. "Read it alone, Miss Harper. And remember, Joe's will is ironclad.
no appeals."
His eyes twinkled, like he knew the bomb inside. I tore it open, heart pounding. "Lexi girl." It started, Grandpa's voice leaping off the page, gruff and warm. "If you're reading this, the vultures are circling. I ain't blind, saw what they did to you. Those checks, the lies. The accident? Their mess, your burden. But blood's thicker than thieves, and I couldn't cut him loose. Not yet. So here's the play. I bought life insurance, big policy, $500,000 payout. Split 3 ways, you, me, posthumously, and a trust for family reconciliation. But the catch? The trust activates only if you forgive. Publicly.
Or
You contest it, expose the fraud, and it all goes to you.
solo.
With proof attached, tapes, stocks, the works. Your call, kid. Revenge or redemption. I trust your spine. Love, Gramps. My hands shook, the paper crinkling like thunder. $500,000. Enough to vanish, start over, therapy, college, a life without limps in my shadow. Or forgive. Let them slither away with their secrets, maybe reform under the dollar signs. It was a devil's bargain. Grandpa's final twist, forcing me to choose between justice and mercy. The villain in this? Him. Maybe, for dangling the carrot of doubt. Or me, for the glee bubbling under my shock. I emerged stone-faced, envelope tucked in my purse. The drive home was silent, wipers slapping rhythm like a metronome of dread. Mom broke first. What did it say, Lexi?
Money?
He leave us anything. Dad's eyes flicked in the rear view, hungry. I stared out at the blurring cornfields, the flat Ohio expanse mocking my trapped soul. Nothing you need to worry about. I lied, voice honey over venom. That night, I paced the basement, gun on the workbench, weighing scales. Forgiveness? After they let me rot. Use my pain as their ATM?
No.
But the trust, public absolution, could buy time, let me gather more ammo. I fired off emails to a PI Grandpa recommended in the envelope, a ex-cop named Ruiz who specialized in family fraud. Dig deep, I wrote. I want everything. Revenge escalated quietly. I started accidentally leaving printouts around, SSA notices, forum threads on elder abuse. Mom found one in the laundry, her scream echoing like a siren. Alexis, what is this? She waved it like a flag of surrender, face pale under the kitchen light. Dad stormed in, red-faced. You trying to ruin us, girl? After all we've sacrificed. I finished, limp be damned as I stepped close. You sacrificed me, Dad. My future, my trust. For what? So you could play house while I scraped by. He raised a hand, instinct old habits, but dropped it when he saw the steel in my eyes. Not the gun, but something sharper. Aunt Carla called the next day, voice syrupy over the line. Heard about the will, sweetie. Family drama, huh? If you need an ear. Or a place to crash. Subtext, side with me, get a cut. I played dumb. Hung up, but noted her number. Allies were scarce. Everyone had an angle. The PI's first report landed a week later. Emails from Mom to a lover in Akron, promising easy money for my checks. Dad's gambling logs, debts to bookies who'd break fingers for less. And the accident. Witness statements they'd buried, a trucker who'd seen the swerve, pegged it on impairment. Enough for charges, maybe. I forwarded it to my blog's legal advice thread, anonymous, watching the outrage build. Sue the bastards, commenters roared. But the climax brewed at the family barbecue, annual ritual on the back porch where mosquitoes feasted and grudges simmered. Relatives trickled in, Aunt Carla with her margaritas, cousins with kids who stared at my limp like it was contagious. Mom grilled burgers, Dad manned the cooler, both shooting me pleading looks. I sat on the steps, nursing a seltzer, when Carla sidled up.
Spill, Alexis.
What's the old man left you? I smiled, slow and sharp. Enough to make things interesting. Her laugh was forced, but her eyes calculated. As dusk fell, fireflies winking like conspirators, I stood, leg protesting, and clinked a bottle. A toast, I called, voice carrying over the chatter. To family, to secrets that don't stay buried. Silence dropped like a guillotine. Mom froze mid-flip. Dad's beer foamed over. I pulled the envelope from my pocket, Grandpa's words burning. Grandpa had a message. For all of us. Gasps rippled. I read it aloud, the policy, the choice, the fraud hints. Not all, just enough to crack the facade. Carla's face twisted, jealousy? Relief? Dad lunged. You little. But Mom held him back, tears streaming. Please, Lexi. We can fix this. The relatives murmured, sides forming, some nodding sympathy for the poor girl, others whispering about ungrateful brats. Polarizing, just like Grandpa planned.
Me?
I felt alive, the ache in my leg drowned by adrenaline. But as the night shattered, yells, accusations flying like sparks, I slipped away, gun in my bag, wondering if redemption was just another lie. The real storm hit the next morning. Cops at the door, tipped by my anonymous SSA flag. Not for the money, yet, but for the falsified accident report. Dad in cuffs, Mom wailing. I watched from the window, heart a war drum. Revenge tasted sweet, but hollow. And Grandpa's twist? It was just beginning. The squad car idled in the driveway, blue lights painting our peeling siding in staccato pulses, like a bad acid trip nobody asked for. Neighbors peeped from behind curtains, the Elm Street gossip mill already churning. The Harpers finally snapped. Dad's hands were zip-tied behind his back, face mashed against the wet gravel as Officer Ramirez recited rites with the boredom of a man who'd seen too many family implosions. Mom clawed at the uniform sleeve, mascara rivers down her cheeks. It's a mistake. My husband, he's a good man. Ramirez shrugged her off gently, the way you do a drunk aunt at Thanksgiving. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, the chill seeping through my thin hoodie. Part of me wanted to intervene, spin some yarn about a misunderstanding. The other part, the one forged in basement vigils with Grandpa's letters, savored the symmetry. They'd cuffed me once, metaphorically, chaining me to their sins.
Now?
Turnabout's fair play. Alexis. Mom whirled on me, eyes wild. Tell them it's not true. I finished, voice low, steady. The cops glanced my way, notebooks flipping. Ramirez's partner, a rookie with a buzz cut, jotted notes.
Mom?
You the daughter? I nodded, limping forward into the drizzle.
Yeah.
And it's all true. The accident cover-up, the disability fraud. Check the files, Social Security's got M flagged. Mom sagged against the porch rail, a deflated balloon of a woman. Dad just stared, betrayal in his eyes mirroring mine from years back. Good. Let it burn. They hauled him away for questioning, obstruction of justice, falsifying reports, the works. Mom followed in her beat-up Corolla, calling her a lawyer buddy from the diner where she waitressed. I waved them off, the rain soaking my hair, plastering it to my scalp like a cold compress on a fever dream. Inside, the house felt cavernous, echoes bouncing off walls papered with faded dreams, from photos of me in a dress that hid the brace, Dad's union plaque gathering dust. I sank onto the couch, the springs groaning in sympathy, and let the sobs come. Not for them, but for the girl I'd been, the one who believed blood meant unbreakable. The blog exploded overnight. I'd posted a teaser before the cops arrived, when family becomes the crime scene, and the internet, that voracious beast, latched on. Shares from true crime pods, threads on Reddit's r/raised by narcissists dissecting my bravery. Hate mail too. Snitch. Ungrateful whore. Aunt Carla texted. You did this? For spite? Call me. We talk settlement. Settlement. As if dollars could stitch the rips. Ruiz, the PI, rang mid-morning, voice gravel from too many smokes. Harper? Got more dirt. Your mom's lover? Not just Akron, he's a CPA, cooked books for your folks' schemes. Embezzlement trail leads back to your checks. Want me to loop in the feds? I hesitated, staring at Grandpa's envelope on the coffee table. Forgiveness or exposure? The trust loomed, that $166,000 carrot if I played nice. But nice was for suckers. Do it, I said. All the way. The fallout cascaded like dominoes in a hurricane. Dad made bail by evening, courtesy of a bondsman who looked like he moonlighted as a bouncer. He burst through the door, reeking of stale coffee and fury, Mom trailing like a shadow. You happy now, Lexi? He roared, slamming fists on the table hard enough to rattle the salt shaker. Ruined us. For what? A few grand? I didn't flinch. Stood slow, leg protesting, and met his gaze. A few grand? Try my life, Dad. The therapy I skipped, the jobs I lost 'cause I couldn't stand 8 hours. You stole that. Mom whimpered. We were desperate. Desperate doesn't forge my name on loans for your Vegas weekends. I'd printed the evidence, spread it like a deck of cards. Dad swept them off, scattering like confetti at a funeral. Your grandfather, God rest him, he poisoned you against us. Mention of Gramps lit the fuse. I laughed, bitter and sharp. He saved me, showed me the truth you buried. We circled each other, kitchen a coliseum, words as gladiators. Mom tried refereeing, but her voice cracked. Please, baby. The will, whatever he left, we can share. Start over.
Share.
The word slithered, tempting. I could see it, us in therapy, mending fences under fluorescent lights, the money a bomb. But then I remembered the shoebox, the affidavit stained with Grandpa's tears. No, I said, final as a gavel. You earn it or lose it. Dad lunged, not to hit, but to grab my arms, shake sense in. I twisted free, brace digging into my thigh, and backed toward the hall. Touch me again, and it's assault on top of fraud. He deflated, hands dropping, a man hollowed by his own greed. That night, alone again, I cracked the revolver's cylinder, bullets glinting like accusations. Loaded it fully, click, click, 6 chambers of what if. Not for them, but for the shadows in my head, the doubts whispering I was the villain here, tearing down the only family I had. Sleep came fitful, dreams of the accident replaying. Dad's swerve, Mom's scream, my leg twisting under metal. Woke to a text from Ruiz. Feds interested. Meet tomorrow? Morning brought a knock, not cops, but CPS, following up on my tip about financial elder abuse, twisted to fit the family dynamic. They interviewed me in the living room, notebook sympathetic, asking about my support system. Mom hovered in the kitchen, eavesdropping. It's complicated, I admitted. They raised me but broke me too. The social worker nodded, jotted ambivalent attachment. As she left, Mom cornered me. You called them? On us. On me, I corrected. I'm the victim here. Her slap came fast, open palm, stinging more from shock than pain. Victim? You're destroying us. Tears welled, but I held her gaze. Join the club. The polarization hit peak when the local news picked it up. Ohio daughter exposes parents' disability scam. A puff piece that painted me as whistleblower saint, them as desperate sinners. Online it split. Justice for Alexis trending with memes of me as avenging angel, limp and all, countered by family first rants calling me a fame whore. Aunt Carla went public on Facebook, spilling half-truths. Grandpa manipulated her, poor lamb. Sides drawn, the town divided like post-election America. Dad skipped the next court date, spooked by federal whispers. Mom confessed in a panic, partial, tearful, to the DA, trading details for leniency. Sentences loomed. Probation for her, jail time for him if the gambling ties stuck. I attended the hearing in Columbus, the courthouse a marble tomb of echoes. Watching them shuffle in, Dad in ill-fitting suit, Mom clutching tissues, I felt the hook twist. Pity? Yes, a sliver. But mostly release. Post-hearing, Ruiz met me in a diner off I-71, booth sticky with syrup ghosts. It's done, he said, sliding a thumb drive. All the evidence, plus bank traces. You could sue civilly, squeeze millions in restitution.
Million?
My head spun. The trust paled. But as I pocketed it, doubt crept. Was this victory, or just trading one chain for another? Back home, the house empty, them crashing at Carla's, I rifled drawers, finding stashes. Mom's jewelry bought on my dime, Dad's poker trophies. Burned it all in the backyard fire pit, flames licking skyward like middle fingers. Smoke curled, acrid and cathartic. But as embers died, a call from Hargrove. Miss Harper, the policy payout cleared. Your choice on the trust, deadlines tomorrow. The decision loomed, a cliff edge. Forgive and fund their rehab? Or claim it all? Orphan myself for good? Grandpa's voice echoed. Your spine, kid.
It shows fira.
Claiming the full payout felt like signing my own emancipation papers, the notary's stamp a tattoo of finality on my soul. Hargrove processed it swift, $500K wired to my secret account by noon, the trust evaporating like mist under sun. No more strings, no forced forgiveness. I celebrated alone in the diner where Ruiz and I had met, ordering the biggest cheeseburger Ohio could muster, French fries drowning in gravy that tasted like triumph. The waitress, a weathered woman with tattooed knuckles, winked as she refilled my Coke. Heard about you on the news, hon, good on ya. Blood don't always mean family. But triumph's a fickle bitch. By evening, the backlash crashed like a hangover. Aunt Carla's Facebook Live rants. Grandpa's will was coercion. Alexis stole our inheritance. Went viral in our corner of the Rust Belt. Shares from cousins I'd ghosted years back. Trolls dox my blog, flooding comments with vitriol. Cripple con artist ruins parents for clout.
Cripple.
The word hit like gravel under tires, dredging up schoolyard taunts I'd buried deep. I deleted the site, but screenshots lingered, a digital scar. Mom showed up at dusk, unannounced, her Corolla sputtering up the drive like a dying animal. She looked smaller, swallowed by Dad's old flannel, eyes puffy from crying jags.
Lexi, can we talk?
Rain pattered the roof as she stepped inside, dripping trails on the linoleum. I nodded, gesturing to the couch, the gun hidden in the side table drawer like a guilty secret. We sat, the space between us a chasm wider than the Grand Canyon. "It's over," she started, voice a whisper. "Your father's. He's talking plea, but the feds want more. That lover of mine, stupid, I know, they're pinning money laundering on us both." She wrung her hands, knuckles white. "We were drowning, baby. The mill closed, bills piled. Your checks, they were a lifeline." "Lifeline," I echoed, laugh hollow. "You lassoed me with it, Ma. Pulled me under while you swam." She flinched, but pressed on, pulling a manila folder from her bag. "Divorce papers. Dated yesterday. I'm leaving him. Starting over in Akron. Waitressing full-time. No more schemes. But I need
Something.
a loan? From the will?" The ask hung, bold as brass. Grandpa's money, my money, dangling like bait. Part of me softened. This was Mom, who'd braided my hair before the accident, sung lullabies off-key. But the schemer in her eyes? That flipped like a coin, landing tails every time. "No," I said, gentle but iron. "Earn your way, like I did." Her face crumpled, accusations flying. "You're just like your grandfather, cold, manipulative. He hated us, you know. Pitted you against your own blood."
Blood.
The word clanged, reminding me of the accident's metallic tang, the lie I'd swallowed for them. "He loved me enough to arm me," I countered. "You?
You used me."
She left in tears, slamming the door that rattled windows. I bolted it, then slid to the floor, back against wood, sobs racking till my leg cramped. Vulnerability's a luxury I couldn't afford, not with Dad's bookies sniffing around. Voicemails from numbers I didn't know. Harper O's. "Tell the bitch daughter to pay up." Threats, veiled but sharp. I forwarded to Ruiz, who chuckled dark. "Amateurs. I'll handle." The tension ratcheted as fall leaves turned the streets to fire. Court dates loomed, Dad's trial set for November in federal court. Fraud, obstruction, ties to a small-time ring that laundered through fake charities. Mom flipped fully, testifying against him for immunity, her statements dripping betrayal like honeyed poison. "He forced me," she claimed in depositions I read online, public record now.
Forced.
As if my power of attorney wasn't her signature too. I moved out, sublet a one-bedroom in Columbus, close to OSU for night classes in creative writing, the payout funding tuition, and a carbon fiber brace that shaved pain off my stride. Freedom tasted like takeout Thai and late-night study sessions, but shadows followed. Carla sued, contesting the will on undue influence, her lawyer a shark from Dayton arguing Grandpa brainwashed me. Depositions dragged, me on stand, limping to the box, voice steady as I recounted the shoebox, the letters. "He gave me truth," I said. "Not chains." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver streaks, saw through Carla's greed. Case dismissed, but not before she dragged family dirt into open court. Dad's affairs, Mom's thefts, even my enabling role in the lies. "No one's clean here," she ruled, gavel echoing judgment. Carla slunk back to Phoenix, $10,000 legal bill her souvenir. Polarized didn't cover it. Protests outside court, handfuls, sure, but fervent. Stand with parents signs decrying generational war, countered by Alexis Strong banners from disability advocates. Media swarmed, a local Fox affiliate cornering me post-ruling. "Do you regret it?" Flashbulbs popped like gunfire. I paused, rain-slick pavement gleaming. Regret exposing lies?
No.
Regret the pain? Every day. Clickbait gold, sparking debates on talk radio. Is she hero or homewrecker? Dad's trial was the inferno. I testified, the stand a spotlight on my scars, literal and not. They made me lie. I told the jury, voice cracking on the accident details, swerve, crash, cover up. Dad glared from the defense table, older suddenly, gaunt. Mom's testimony gutted him, details of coercion, but also complicity. We both signed off. The flip? Masterful, her eyes downcast, playing victim to the hilt. Jury deliberated 2 days. Verdict: guilty on all counts. 10 years, minimum security in Chillicothe. Visiting hours came a month later, the prison a concrete maze of regret. I went alone, brace clicking on tile, Dad behind plexiglass looking like a stranger. Why, Lexi, he rasped through the phone, voice tinny. We built this family. You broke it. I cut in. But I'll build mine. He pressed hand to glass, mine stayed in lap. As I left, his plea trailed. Forgive me? I didn't answer. Outside, autumn wind whipped, carrying leaves like unanswered questions. Mom's rehab stint followed, court-mandated, anger management in Akron. She wrote letters weekly, postmarked with shaky script. I'm changing, baby. For you. I read them, burned half, saved others for the book I was outlining. Memoir disguised as fiction. Revenge in ink. Readers from the blog beta-tested chapters, raving. This'll destroy them.
Destroy.
The word thrilled and terrified. But the villain's mask slipped when Ruiz uncovered the deepest cut, Grandpa's secret. Not just docs, a tape hidden in the thumb drive. His voice, frail from chemo. Lexi, if you hear this. I covered for your folks once too. That accident? I knew about the drinking, the fight. Bribed a cop to fudge the report, keep the family intact. My sin, kid. Don't let it be yours.
Twist.
Grandpa, the sage? Complicit. His announcement, the will, was atonement, forcing my hand to break the cycle or perpetuate it. Doubt flooded, black as Ohio nights. Was I avenger or echo? The climax brewed, a parole hearing for Dad in 5 years, Mom's release from oversight. My book deal loomed, agent buzzing. This sells controversy. But as winter bit, I wondered, had I won or just traded places in the cage? Winter clamped down on Columbus like a vice, snow blanketing the Scioto River in deceptive peace, muffling the city's pulse to a whisper. My apartment overlooked it all, floor-to-ceiling windows in a high-rise funded by the payout, a far cry from Elm Street's damp basement. I'd traded the limp's constant nag for yoga mats and a personal trainer, the brace now a stylish accessory rather than a shackle. Classes at OSU hummed, professors praising my essays on familial betrayal in American Lit, oblivious to the blood on the pages. Life rebuilt, brick by careful brick. But revenge's aftertaste is bile, lingering no matter how you rinse. Dad's letters from Chillicothe started arriving, weekly scrawls on lined paper. Miss you, kid. Bible studies helping. Think of me at Christmas. I filed them in a box, unopened mostly, their way to anchor. Mom's were different, progress reports from her counselor, attached photos of AA meetings, her smile tentative but real. One day at a time, Lexi. Proud of your book. The manuscript sat half done on my desk, chapters dripping venom. Agent pushing for a fall release. Lean into the controversy. Make it raw. Controversy found me anyway. The launch party for a similar memoir, another daughter's takedown of abusive kin, drew protests. Family values groups picketing the bookstore, signs screaming, honor thy father and mother. Inside, champagne fizzed. Authors swapped war stories. Mine slipped out over canapes. The accident, the checks, Grandpa's twist. A podcaster cornered me, mic thrust like a sword. So, was the revenge worth it? The family's destroyed, yours included. I sipped Merlot, the burn steadying. Destroyed? Or exposed? They chose greed. I chose truth. But later, alone in the Uber home, doubt gnawed.
Exposed.
Grandpa's tape played in my head on loop. His complicity, the bribed cop, a secret sin passed like a hot potato. Had I just amplified the cycle, Villain to my own tale? Spring thawed the ice, but not the chill. Mom's release from oversight came with a visit, her first to my new life. She arrived in a cab, clutching a Tupperware of homemade lasagna, looking older, lines etched deeper. We walked the riverfront, my limp barely noticeable, her steps hesitant on uneven path. "It's beautiful here," she said, voice small. "You deserve it." We talked, halting at first, skirting landmines. The accident, her confession raw. "I drove that night too, after he passed out. Scared, Lexi. So scared." The checks, desperation spiral, Dad's rages pushing her hand. "No excuses, just ownership. I failed you. Every day." Tears fell, hers and mine, mixing with river mist. Forgiveness? Not yet. But a crack opened, light seeping through. Dad's parole hearing loomed summer, a video link from prison. I tuned in from home, screen flickering like old film. He looked rehabilitated, clean-shaven, quoting verses, remorse scripted but sincere. "I've changed, Judge. For my daughter." The board grilled. Fraud details, victim impact. My statement pre-recorded. Actions have echoes. Pay the debt. They denied 2 more years. His face fell, but he nodded to the camera. "I love you, Lexi."
Love.
The word weaponized, twisted through years. Aunt Carla's final play came then, a countersuit, claiming I coerced Grandpa's will with emotional manipulation. Court in Dayton, sweltering July. She took the stand, crocodile tears. He was senile, influenced by her sob stories. My turn. The tape played for the judge, Grandpa's voice cracking on his sins.
See?
We all hid. Her case crumbled, lawyer folding like cheap lawn chair. Costs to her, vindication to me. But the real twist dropped post-trial, Hargrove's office again, envelope in hand. Joe had a safety deposit box. Accessed on your say-so. Inside, not cash, but deeds, to a cabin upstate, Grandpa's boyhood haunt, titled solely to me. And a letter. "Lexi, the money was bait. This, sanctuary. Build your family here, not on grudges. If you exposed us all, including me, you're free." Twist. I wasn't saint. Neither are you. But spines bend before they break. Love, Gramps.
Free.
The word echoed as I drove north, Ohio's hills greening under tires. Cabin waited, log walls, lake view, dusty but whole. I aired it out, swept cobwebs, the work therapy for soul scars. Mom visited weekends, helping paint, her laughter tentative. Dad's letters I read now, replies short. Healing takes time. No book release, shelved it, the raw too risky. Instead, a blog reboot, Revenge's Reckoning, stories of grace over grudge. The polarization lingered, debates and comments, readers split. She sold out, forgiveness is weakness, versus real strengths in mercy. Controversy's gift. No one's all right, all wrong. Grandpa's announcement? The will, the tape, shocking still, forcing the mirror. Summer's end, lakeside fire. Mom and I roasted marshmallows, stars pricking black. "Think he'll get out soon?" she asked. I shrugged, stick charring. "Maybe. We'll see."
No rus.
The gun? Locked away, relic of a war won quiet. Ending? Not fairy tale, not tragedy. Just life, limping forward, scars fading to stories. Betrayal's scar runs deep. But revenge? It's a bridge burned or crossed. I chose the horizon, spine straight as I could make it.